Live and Local is proudly sponsored by Community First Credit Union and Waln Collision Center in Fairfax. This is a presentation of KCRG TV9 Live Events. Join KCRG TV9 in recognizing the hard work all of our graduates have accomplished this year. Congratulations, graduates.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2021 Jefferson High School Commencement Ceremony. Thank you for sharing in this event with our faculty and the graduating seniors. At this time, we are ready for the graduates to enter the arena. Please rise and remain standing for the processional and the instrumental version of the Star-Spangled Banner.
Please be seated. Good evening. I am Cameron Howard, a senior class board member. I would like to welcome you to the 2021 graduation ceremony for the senior class of Thomas Jefferson High School, and thank you for joining us. Before we begin, please allow me to introduce the rest of our class board members: Madison Bowman, Jackson Burgess, Callie Christofferson, Susie Park, and myself. Thank you for the time and effort in serving our class. Since 1958, seniors of Jefferson High School have gathered to celebrate the culmination of their 13 years of work and dedication to school. This tradition binds us as Jayhawks. And every class has, undoubtedly, had some kind of unique experience that made an impact on their time in school. In that regard, we are no different. What makes our class different from any other, however, is that in addition to navigating the ever-changing learning landscape, we had particular time and opportunity to learn about ourselves. This time, distance from others, has challenged us to consider the kind of lifestyles and careers we truly find ourselves motivated by. I think I can speak for everyone when I say that we are very excited to be able to celebrate our accomplishments with an in-person ceremony. Tonight is our final opportunity to be together and to appreciate the friends, teachers, and supporters who have defined our educational journey before we go in many different yet exciting directions. While I don't want to dwell on the pandemic, it is important in giving context to just how much we've grown. Although so much was shut down and our usual activities were put on hold, all of us, in one way or another, were able to find new ways to occupy our time. In our months away from the normal pace of life, we were able to foster our passions and develop our emotional intelligence. While the details of how we spend our independent time are unique to ourselves, common themes do connect us. Here are a few of those commonalities which best represent the ways we have all grown and changed during this time. Resilience. Like many in our class involved with fine arts and theater, love of the stage had to be taken in many new directions. Because some of the functions of the theater could be done virtually, they were poised to transition online when lockdown happened. As we came back to school, the way we viewed theater changed just as much as the physical space itself. The many new ways envisioned to hold performances allowed the theater department to find success in the face of so much change. Similarly, many of us involved with athletics were presented with the common challenge of continuing a sport due to the lack of structure or a clear way forward. With no more open gyms, no more daily practices, and no more close team bonding, staying in shape and connected to teammates became a challenge. In order to overcome this challenge, athletes in our class had to put in double the time and effort to keep in touch with one another and continue towards their athletic goals. These familiar stories demonstrate a resilience we've all had to develop in order to merely continue striving academically and personally in the face of so much uncertainty. Balance. Though our time spent in the classroom last year declined, our family and personal responsibilities certainly did not. Many of us got new jobs or took on increasing amounts of work to stay busy or meet the needs of our jobs. Some of us helped our family's businesses operate in a time when the day-to-day stressors of running a business seemed never-ending. Nearly all of us dealt with new family responsibilities on top of work and school, like taking care of siblings, looking after our houses, or helping to maintain ever-changing schedules. Just as important as these responsibilities was finding time for us to enjoy this freedom and be teenagers. These abrupt and increased family and personal roles highlight a newfound balance we've all gained from juggling so many different responsibilities at once. Self-awareness. Perhaps the most universal of all of these traits is also one of the most valuable. No longer faced with the stress and anxiety of school, last year gave us an unheard of amount of time to develop new hobbies, skills, and interests. The slowing pace of life, for most of us, was shocking at first. But eventually, we were able to figure out that this time was valuable, that we probably won't have such universal free time again. And so we did things. We started going on walks or runs or going outside in general. Yoga, painting, cooking, and baking were some of the more common ways that we were able to fill our time. Most of all, this time allowed us to reflect on our interests and gain a real sense of what we like to do with our lives. We now have a much clearer idea of what drives us. Just as clear are the identities we take for ourselves and the people we want to be. These countless stories of new passion projects demonstrate a growth in self-awareness that we all now share. Empathy. Whether it was a family member struggling with COVID, a neighborhood battered by the derecho, or one of the many challenges of the past year, each of us experienced some type of loss, which has connected us like never before. These collective struggles provide us all an opportunity for deeper compassion and understanding. As our lives regain their sense of normalcy, remembering the power of empathy will ultimately benefit our lives. These examples all demonstrate the now steadfast idea that the uniqueness of our class is unquestionable. The self-reflecting and internalizing has allowed us to discover ourselves. While our paths will undoubtedly change in the future, no matter where we go after leaving here tonight, whether off to college, trade school, the armed forces, or work, we are prepared in a way that no other class has been. Our work in the classroom has academically prepared us, and the many social changes have emotionally prepared us. The many ways we developed our interests means that we know what we want, and we have the confidence to take ourselves there. Best of luck and congratulations, class of 2021. Next, I would like to introduce our first speaker of the evening, Class Board Member Madison Bowman, who will give her speech, "We Made It Together."
A couple weeks ago, we got to experience the epitome of the high school experience, prom. This year, prom represented our year, altered and abnormal. But we made it our own by coming up with a way to capture one of the most coveted moments in high school. It is a rite of passage, and we made it just that. We took advantage of the rare moment that others may have taken for granted. The time together, celebrating our perseverance over the last years, even though our 4 years were unlike anyone else's in this room. For us, our time was shorter, but we have one last chance to capture one last moment. Today. Let's make today ours, just like we have done over the past years, and capture this last moment. The entire Jefferson class of 2021, finally together for the first and last time. We made it. Abnormality defined our 4 years, from the rare polar vortex that brought a treacherous winter, which altered our school year, to the pandemic, to the derecho, and to now, where we continue to feel the presence of these events. However, even though our time in the infamous brick building was limited, we made it ours. We made it unique. We listened to the cliche from many different voices, telling us that this era would go by quickly and that we needed to experience it to the fullest. We needed to capture all the moments and take it in. Our class made these last 4 years undeniably ours. Even though we did not have the quintessential normal time here at Jefferson, we had many of our own moments. The most memorable moments of freshman year were experiencing all the big events that come with being a high schooler, all the firsts, the first day of school, first pep assembly, first homecoming, first concerts, first finals, and just all the new experiences. Experiencing those together with big eyes brought us closer together. Little by little, we picked up snippets of time well spent that will follow us. These little pieces that we have all collected definitely differ from Westsider to Westsider, but they all have one thing in common. They are times with other members of our class. The best memories are the most mundane, like walking in the hallway or sitting in the cafeteria laughing, talking, and just being with each other. Our class may have missed out on some of the big moments, but we have captured every little moment, and we have created a memory that others may have taken for granted. Just being together. Sophomore year is kind of the year that is just there. It is not our first year, not the most stressful year, and definitely not our last year. This is where the smallest moments exist. Laughing about traffic jams in the hallway, moving further up in the student section with your friends, meeting and engaging with new people, teachers, in new classes, becoming more ingrained with your friends, finally getting a WPA, having a blast at the concert-like pep assembly with the entire school, and so much more. On top of the big moments we did get, we had smaller memories to complement it. That continues on for junior year. Junior year is when bonding over stress occurred. Our classes became more intense and our future was hunting us down. On the bright side, we got to switch to the upperclassmen side of the gym, officially marking our new status. And we continued to enjoy our high school experience as we neared the end of the year. Then COVID hit, pushing us into an online world and making the rest of the year optional. Once again, we altered the situation in our favor with a time filled with a lot of TikTok, online workouts, whipped coffee, baking, walks, family time, and trying to find toilet paper and cleaning supplies. We entertained ourselves as much as possible and took quarantine as a time of self-improvement and trying new things, because we did have all the time in the world. FaceTiming and calling people to check in was more frequent, and we learned never to take anything normal for granted. We took in all the moments we could get with each other, even if it was a little different. We still found ways to be a class. Hope for one more year in order to capture every last ounce of this one-time experience was always present. It motivated us to be tenacious through adversity. Being online is not easy for anyone, students, teachers, parents, administrators alike. However, we still found moments and continued to be grateful for all the ones we did experience. Just like we had done in the past, we worked for them. Overall, the epitome of capturing all the moments was prom and today. An altered prom was a representation of our abnormal years. Abnormal days like prom and today are normal to us. It may look a little different to others, but today, our final day together, is what we define as normal. Celebrating together is the biggest moment we can capture. Our class, the class of 2021, was constantly forced to adjust to altered curriculums and environments throughout our years. And we thrived. Now we are at the end goal. The reason we constantly adjusted to be here, connected by blue blood. The Jefferson class of 2021 has come together over many shared experiences, and one is not being ordinary. I am so proud of us because we have only become stronger by persevering. Our class is so pliable to change and learning to succeed in all situations. We have set an amazing example for future Jayhawks, one that continues to make the West Side the best side. We experienced our high school time to the fullest. We made it to the end of this era. I am so proud of us. And after everything, I'm excited and so thankful to say that we get to close this chapter the right way, together. Thank you. The band will now perform two selections, America the Beautiful and The Road Home.
Would the audience please stand for the Jefferson Loyalty Song? Uh-oh. Sorry, I am new to this. Now, would the audience please stand for the Jefferson Loyalty Song?
Please be seated. My name is Samuel Yonke, and it is my pleasure this evening to introduce several guests who are seated on stage and who will participate in the graduation ceremony. Members of the Cedar Rapids Community School District Board of Directors will present diplomas to the graduates. Please reserve your applause until all are introduced. Board President Nancy Humbles, Jennifer Newman, and David Tominski. I would also like to introduce Mrs. Noreen Bush, Superintendent of Cedar Rapids Community School District, and Nicole Koiker, Deputy Superintendent, and Ms. Cynthia Phillips, Executive Director for High Schools. On behalf of Jefferson's class of 2021, I would like to offer our sincere thanks for the efforts of these board members and central office administrators. I would now like to introduce salutatorian Claire Malone.
I would now like to introduce this year's 22 valedictorians. Will they please rise and remain standing until all names are called? They are Elizabeth Barroso, Emma Berger, Cruz Brannon, Brianna Briney, Madison Bowman, Callie Christofferson, Emily Foltz, Jack Gowdy, Emmanuel Guerrero, Samuel Yonke, Sarah Yonke, Drew Kearns, Ella Kevitt, Olivia Kimbrough, Lucas Lampreck, Kyle Lassen, Susie Park, Elizabeth Peeler, Tyler Schmitz, Nicholas Tao, Anna Werkel, and Renee Wilhelm. One of these valedictorians will be presenting their reflections tonight about the time that we have spent in high school. I would now like to introduce Senior Valedictorian Kyle Lassen.
After the closest thing the Midwest can get to a hurricane finished tossing our city around, I, like many of you, stepped outside to survey the damage. While taking the scene in, I heard a cough from down the street. As small as this moment seems, it served as a brutal reminder to me of the hopeless situation we found ourselves in. On top of a new and deadly virus being loose in our communities, we were now dealing with the complete destruction of the basic infrastructure which we had previously taken for granted. Power lines were down, water mains had broken, and some of us had no way of checking in on our loved ones. As the powerless days passed, we pressed on and got our city back on its feet. Now, obviously, none of you need a reminder of this, and I won't tell you something naive, like that the storm was a positive thing because it just brought us together as a city. But I do think there's a lesson here. While this disaster has changed our current lives, our futures look more or less the same. I say this because, by and large, Cedar Rapids is back up and running. The storm's effects may linger, ruined silos, patched roofs, missing trees, but as a whole, we have proved our resilience as a community and as individuals. Just as we've done before, we all remember 2008, and just as we'll do again. In more ways than the derecho, this tumultuous year has shown us the fragility of our society, but it has also shown us its immense resilience. How fragile or how resilient it continues to be is ultimately up to us and how we react to the next setback. Just as our city looks physically different from the derecho, but is functionally the same, we too have been changed by the pandemic, but won't be defined by it. We still have a future. In addition to an inland hurricane, this year our class has experienced something of an academic storm. Of course, I'm referencing remote learning. This is yet another example of something that our class has just had to take in stride. The pandemic took that final year we've all been looking forward to and flipped it upside down and backwards. I imagine that when we learned that this year would be so odd, some of us were indifferent, but many of us were upset. Still, some of us were probably thrilled with the idea of attending first hour without leaving bed. But regardless of where you fell on this spectrum, we all had to deal with a lot of changes this year. However, just because this year academically looked so different from a normal year, whatever that is, this does not mean that the next chapter of our lives will be as mangled. Just like with the derecho, we've been changed by the pandemic, and now we're getting around it to the future we've been looking forward to for so long. Now, I'm obviously not claiming that COVID is no longer a problem, but we've made measurable progress, and we're getting ever closer to that elusive normalcy. I've been imagining how this transition back to normal life will look. Personally, I can't remember what it's like to attend a regular classroom filled with students, but it's something I'll have to do in the near future. Reassimilating ourselves into regular society will likely be a challenge, just as our post-storm rebuilding was. But I see no reason to think we won't be able to bounce back again. We overcame a hurricane in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I think we can relearn how to carry on in-person conversations. Based on what I hear from anyone with greater life experience than myself, the end of the pandemic will not be the end of our exposure to challenge. As many of you may know, I have fallen into a bit of disappointment of my own recently. After spending hundreds of hours preparing for this year's senior tennis season, I broke my dominant wrist halfway through it. Now, this is obviously no comparison to a global pandemic, but it has served as a sort of small personal analogy to it in my mind. The reality is that I can't put a positive spin on the disappointment of breaking my wrist. And while it's common for us to look for the good in something bad, I'd argue that sometimes it is not the best strategy. Finding positives in bad situations is certainly helpful, but I'm not convinced that it's always possible. The good news for me is that in the scope of life, broken bones and missed tennis seasons are inconsequential. A global pandemic, however, carries tragic consequences that I wouldn't dream of trying to romanticize the silver lining in. So once again, I think looking forward is the best option. While my time as a tennis player has been shortened by half a year, I should have many more years ahead of me. And with every year I don't break a wrist, this year becomes smaller and smaller. Similarly, we are all moving on to something after tonight, and we will all experience more derechos, or temporary setbacks, but nothing we can't move on from. With all this talk of looking to the future, I don't want to neglect the past. We've had 13 years of schooling, and this was just one of them. I hope we all have fond memories of growing with the school, memories and lessons we can take with us wherever we go. In particular, I want to say thank you to all of my teachers. You have made my time here phenomenal. Even in the normal years, you took on stress and challenges to help your students succeed, and this past year you went yet another extra mile. I know you were all worried and unsure of what the next day would look like, but I want you to know that I was never worried. There was some speck of normalcy in the midst of all this chaos, and I always knew it would ultimately be you who would deliver it to us. You've prepared us well for whatever the next chapter in our lives is. Now to my fellow Jayhawks, the class of 2021. I've known many of you for so long, some for more than a decade, and I want to sincerely say thank you for accompanying me from elementary school all the way to this stage. If we did not cross paths until later, you still deserve thanks for all you've done. And even if we lack any real connection, you still deserve a thank you for contributing to the atmosphere of the school that I've been honored to call mine for the past 4 years. I hope every one of us feels a similar bond of camaraderie for one another tonight. Because the reality, whether you dread or welcome it, is that this chapter in our lives is coming to a close. No more memories will be added to this part of our lives. Sad and nostalgic? Yes. But exciting? Also yes. Because we will all move on to do something, and I hope I was right earlier when I claimed that all of our futures will be as we've hoped they'll be. But when the next derecho inevitably comes, I think anyone would agree that the class of 2021 is more than ready to rebuild again. Thank you, Jayhawks, for an unforgettable 4 years. I would now like to introduce Susie Park.
We all know that one coming-of-age movie. The main character is a timid middle schooler, first stepping into the doors of the high school, and they feel a revelation. Throughout the movie, this middle schooler goes on a journey of becoming a high schooler. They make new friends, have their first dates, flunk tests, prank the teacher, and cheer at the much-anticipated football game. Growing up with these kinds of movies, many of us fantasized about what our high school experiences would look like. Would we be the athletes, decathlon winners, enthusiastic performers, or peppy supporters? Would we be the Troys and Gabrielles, or the Ryans and the Sharpays? Would laugh tracks play over our friends' cringy jokes? Would dramatic music cue whenever the teacher walked in? All of these questions were bustling inside us, waiting for what our 4 special years of high school would bring. So I like to think of our high school experience as one of these movies, one that we may have dreamed about, may have even written, one filled with plot twists, drama, laugh, tears, and really good music. So cue the lights. The show is about to begin. Our movie began in 2017, over 400 of us wide-eyed and curious, entering our high school film on the West Side. We were merely extras, the bottom of the hierarchy. Many of us were still in our middle school phase, slightly annoying and childish, but high school was the big leagues, the callback of all callbacks, the time to reinvent ourselves. In our own little world, we made new friends, experienced the struggles of AP Human Geography, learned to hate the heart rate monitors in gym when they stopped working, felt true school spirit by cheering on our football team during Friday night lights, and awkwardly stood at our first homecoming while watching all the upperclassmen grind in the center. During freshman year, our biggest challenges were our first exams, our first sports games, and performing art shows, and fitting in with new friends. Cut to sophomore year. the year we became supporting actors, not the background extras we were as freshmen, but more prominent. We held our heads a little higher as we walked down the hallways with our key lanyards swinging in our hands. We enhanced ourselves in a montage of what we imagined high school to be, slowly integrating ourselves with the upperclassmen, making friends with the juniors, and if we were brave enough, even talking to the seniors. We understood what high school classes were like, but they were not as demanding or rigorous yet. We understood the flow and the rhythm of the social life, and high school dances were not so awkward anymore. We began to find our passions in activities we enjoyed, whether it be academics, sports, or performing arts. These scenes were the sweet ones, filled with upbeat jams and lots of laughs. During junior year, we took on leading roles, finally coming out of the shadows of being underclassmen and more recognizable to an audience. We had our niche and we had our routines, whether this be winning the chants at the end of pep assemblies, marching in the homecoming parade, stressing about ACT scores, or contemplating what our future would look like. We really began to develop into ourselves. But like every good movie, there was an unexpected plot twist. And when I say no one saw this coming, I mean how many movies have an antagonist named COVID-19? I still remember joking with my friends that I would not see them until the new school year, but reality hit when an email came saying that school was canceled for 4 weeks. Those weeks turned into months, and before we all knew it, quarantine was in full swing. Soon we were all frantically grabbing for the last toilet paper, stocking up on hand sanitizer, and setting up Zoom calls. And as if one plot twist wasn't enough, our second plot twist came with 140-mile-per-hour winds. I mean, come on, what is this? We signed up for High School Musical, not the Hunger Games. Experiencing a near hurricane-like storm in the cornfields of the Midwest, the derecho unexpectedly took our movie into an entirely different direction, one that damaged the set of our film. Along with the pandemic, we faced damaged homes, no electricity, and a month cut from school. By senior year, we became the main characters with a cool backstory. I mean, not many can say they experienced a global pandemic and a hurricane all in one summer. As we stayed cooped up in our rooms, we imagined what our senior year was supposed to be. This was our year to rule the school, right? This was our year to cringe at the freshmen, as if we saw them, experienced our last games and performances, as if we had any, and have senior skip day, as if every day wasn't senior skip day. But despite the lack of suspense, this year was a turning point in our movie, the climax. We battled through a pandemic, a damaged city, an atypical senior year, and non-existent social lives. Despite the strong faces we held, I noticed that all my friends and classmates had finally crumbled under the weight of this year. However, we had to reach this moment to realize that the next and only thing we could do was move forward. So like every great main character, we understood that we had the power to change our outcomes, and we persevered. After all, this was our once-in-a-lifetime movie. No pandemic or derecho could take that from us. This year is a reminder of how resilient we are. We have developed and grown in our time alone. We created a prom unlike any other. We planned and prepared for our futures despite the new normals we faced. We won decathlon events, performed our hearts out, won sporting events, and finished all of our classes. As we look back past these 4 years, we must recognize that our movie would not have been complete without an amazing crew. Every good movie needs the background crew to help the show run smoothly, and for us, that was our families, administrators, teachers, and the community. Like us, our teachers face their own world of challenging obstacles. From planning out entirely different methods of teaching, dealing with those classes who refuse to turn on their cameras, all while supporting us. So we thank you, teachers, for helping us create this movie. And to the rest of our crew, our family members, administrators, and community, thank you for cheering us on. And here we are now, filming our final scene, graduation. It's time to wrap our movie and reflect on this masterpiece. I hope you are proud. And now, with awards and diplomas in hand, we are poised for our next roles. Who knows what storyline we will choose next? and action. I would now like to introduce fellow valedictorian Cruz Brannon, who will introduce this year's salutatorians.
Now that you have met the valedictorians and heard their reflections, it is our pleasure to introduce the salutatorians. Will they please rise and remain standing until all names are called? Will the audience please hold your applause until all 10 salutatorians are introduced? Jackson Burgess, Ewan Greer, Kaylee Groman, Cameron Howard, Claire Malone, Celeste Pandura Oriana, Nathan Pearson, Eliana Ward, Kaylin Wise, Paige Weibke. Congratulations to these classmates. You may be seated. I would now like to introduce Senior Sarah Yonke.
I would like to introduce you to some of the academic achievements of the class of 2021. Seniors, your past 4 years at Jefferson High School have sped by. Graduates, it is time to take a few moments to look back on our past accomplishments. In terms of academics, co-curricular activities, and citizenship, this class in the school is second to none, and these are just a few reasons why. Let's start by looking at the academic accomplishments of the class of 2021. Your program provides explanations of several academic honors, including the selection process for valedictorians and salutatorians, students who were introduced to you earlier this evening. Obviously, the students in those elite groups have taken their academic responsibilities at Jefferson very seriously, and they are deserving of the recognition that they have received. In fact, there are 29 members of this class with GPAs of 4.0 or above. They are not, however, the only excellent students in this class. We would like to introduce you many more. At last week's Senior Recognition Night event, academic recognition was provided to many members of this class. Your program describes the qualification standards for students receiving the Presidential Education Award, for membership in the Academic Honors Program, the Honors Program with Distinction, National Honor Society, the Jayhawk Credit Club, and for earning the Jefferson Academic Letter. Those qualification standards are rigorous, and to earn any one of them is worthy of high praise. In fact, 47 of tonight's graduates received a certificate from President Biden because they qualified for the Presidential Education Award. 77 graduates have been inducted into Jefferson's chapter of the National Honor Society. 130 have received the academic letter, and many more qualify when spring term grades have been included on the transcripts. 43 students are wearing the medals for our Academic Honors Program, and an additional 79 are wearing medals for having met the more challenging standards of the Honors with Distinction program. 95 students are wearing blue honor cords this evening, indicating that they have earned 54 or more credits while at Jefferson. 586 4- and 5-year department awards were given in the content areas of language arts, math, science, social studies, world language, and Project Lead the Way. 7 members of this class, Maylin Dunning, Ewan Greer, Adna Islow, Drew Kearns, Logan Rollison, Nicholas Tao, and James West, earned excellent attendance during their 4 years in high school. I am pleased to announce that 239 members of this class have achieved the distinction of qualifying for one or more of these academic honors. Would those 239 students please stand for our recognition? Congratulations on your academic success at Jefferson. Of course, these are not only ways to measure academic success. The graduates just mentioned, and others in the class as well, have been recipients of countless other honors, including academic scholarships that will be used at many colleges and universities this fall. That statement speaks volumes about the academic commitment of the members of the class of 2021. As a class, we are to be commended. I would now like to introduce Drew Kearns, who will discuss our accomplishments and activities.
As in the academic arena, members of this class have enjoyed their participation in Jefferson's numerous co-curricular activities. Students learn valuable lessons and enjoy lasting memories on these teams and ensembles. Some examples of that success include the following. The 2021 Academic Decathlon team won the state championship for the 21st consecutive year. The team represented Iowa at the national competition online, finishing 5th out of 48 schools competing. Instrumental and vocal music programs at Jefferson excel at the state and national levels. Many groups, including Westside Delegation, Ovation, Meister Singers, Jefferson String Orchestra, the Band of Blue Marching Band, Jazz Band, and the Wind Symphony and Symphonic Band, travel regionally and nationally, and their success is phenomenal. Both the choir and instrumental programs own an impressive series of Division I honors in state competitions at the State Marching Band Festival, State Solo and Ensemble Festival, and State Large Group Festival. The musicians have overcome historic obstacles in the classroom this year. They have prepared performances for Kingston Stadium, virtual all-state auditions, and state solo festival performances, and live solo recitals and competitions. We have held multiple band and orchestra concerts, a professional recording session with the jazz band for the Corridor Jazz Project, a show choir performance in the auditorium, and are thrilled to perform in the Powerhouse tonight for our graduating class of 2021. We have a thriving theater program as well. The Jefferson Theater Department presented 5 productions this year. The season began with the creation of an online video game for Cedar Rapids grade schools that allowed students to tour backstage locations and interact with Jefferson student actors called Fairy Tale Theater. Then in January, the department presented our first live stream performance of an original play by Mr. Adler titled Shakespeare 2.020. We completed our season with 3 episodes of an original online interactive game show titled The Show Must Go Online, which mixed pop culture trivia with videos created to archive and preserve our theater traditions and practices until we can open our doors again in the fall. Would all of the graduates who have participated in academic decathlon, vocal or instrumental music, theater, art, or speech during their years at Jefferson, and the staff members who directed them, please stand. We want to give you one last ovation in recognition of your excellent work in the fine arts. I would now like to introduce fellow class member Anna Warkle.
In addition to fine arts and academics, athletic competition provides many valuable lessons and memories. Nearly 1,000 students participate in athletics yearly as a part of the 21 interscholastic sports teams. They have competed in state tournaments and playoffs and have enjoyed successes in the Mississippi Valley Conference, perhaps the premier large school conference in Iowa. As they graduate tonight, they take with them great memories of their participation in sports at Jefferson. Highlights in the athletic arena include state qualifying individuals or in Special Olympics, volleyball, girls tennis, softball, baseball, football, swimming, wrestling, track, and bowling. Would all the members of the class of 2021 who have participated in athletics at Jefferson And would the staff members who have coached them stand? We salute you for your commitment to excellence in the realm of athletics. It would be easy to continue to talk about the journalism program, the math team, the various programs that make up Jefferson's DECA, Service Club, Palms, Cheer Squad, Chess Team, Building Trades, Trap Shooting Club, Math Club, Student Council, and the numerous other clubs that exist at the school. In every case, the message would be similar. Students enjoying a successful program being led by a caring and competent adult. Will the students involved in these programs please stand for our applause? Let me reintroduce our principal, Mr. Michael Hawley.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join in congratulating the class officers, valedictorians, and salutatorians for a job well done tonight. They have been important leaders in the successes of the class of 2021, and their thoughtful and articulate comments have set the tone for an outstanding commencement ceremony. At this time, would the class officers, salutatorians, valedictorians please return to their seats. Of course, the successes these students have enjoyed would not be possible without the help of many, many people who have played critical roles in preparing them for tonight's celebration. First are the educators who have worked with these students at Jefferson. I will introduce them in groups. Please hold your applause until all are standing. Associate Principals, Ms. Lori Bateman, Mr. Chris Deem, and Mr. Chad Zabo. Counselors, Mrs. Kim Abram, Mrs. Jamie Cummins, Mr. Jason Edwards, and Ms. Judy McIntosh. PAC Coordinator, Mr. Kevin Darrow, and NHS Advisor, Ms. Teresa Fetkether. Both helped tirelessly in the preparation of tonight's ceremony. Mrs. Liz Deegan, Ms. Carrie French, Ms. Melissa Courtney, and Mr. Pat Fagan have served these students as class sponsors. Their work has culminated recently with the completion of a successful prom and after-prom party. 25 additional teachers are senior forum advisors, and many of them have worked with the same students for all 4 years of high school. Finally, the remainder of the Jefferson faculty, please stand and be recognized. Let's have all staff stand. Please be seated. 2 Jefferson staff are retiring this year. Would Mrs. Mary Roberts Raschi and Mrs. Susan Rummelhart please stand? Thank you for your long-term commitment and loyalty to our school, and specifically our students. Education is a team effort. Teachers are critical, as are the school board members and central office personnel. So are the professional office staff members who work with students and families every day. Some of those are here tonight. Lois Bassett serves as the principal secretary at Jefferson and has coordinated many of the important end-of-year events. I cannot tell you how much her work is indispensable. Two other office staff members are seated in the audience and have worked to make tonight's event go smoothly. They are Nancy Kaufman and Ellen Pelzer. Thank you so much for all you do on behalf of the students at Jefferson. So good evening. I am so proud of all of you who've made it to the finish line of childhood. As 2021 seniors, you too should feel great pride in all that you've accomplished up to this point in your life, because it is no small feat. You should feel pride for all you've achieved throughout your time in high school, achievements both large and small. See, the gift of high school is that it freezes time, because the memories will be with you always. After all, I remember beating Washington and Kennedy in football, and that was 41 years ago. True, your memories will be unlike those of any other class, but you'll still have great memories, and you should be grateful for them. But I tend to look in the opposite direction. What has been more on my mind this year is your future, both in an individual sense and as a collective. How will you all leave your mark on the world, your community, your family, your own soul? Lessons you take from these past 4 years could be something to use both as motivation and as a cautionary warning. When we have time to think about the future, we often allow ourselves to dream. If you're like many, many students being graduated this year, you've had time at home to dream a lot this year. I imagine there were times when there were dreams that simply dealt with a time when we could go about living our lives without worrying about COVID, quarantine, your principal walking by telling you to cover your nose. But we also dream bigger. These dreams help to show us what it is we want, what drives us. Dreams are a wonderful beginning. How to achieve those dreams is the hard part. After all, dreams without ambition are simply dreams. And that is the cautionary warning I referred to earlier. Be careful. Dreams vanish when there's a lack of commitment. My challenge to all of you is to make your dreams come true. Don't leave them out there in the dream world. If you learn nothing else, no, I'm not referring to all you learned in your classes at Jefferson, although that too is important. You've learned that things don't always turn out the way you think they will, and that sometimes you have little control over it. Probably you also learned some patience along the way as well. You've had to develop an ability to stick with it, whatever it is, so you can get to the end of high school. Many students don't make it. We use all kinds of words for sticking with it: perseverance, tenacity, determination. Sometimes they're a cliche. But most of the time, that's how we reach our goals. These are great things to know and have as you move forward. And I realize that I'm not telling you something you don't already know subconsciously. I just want you to move it to a different part of your brain so it is a conscious thought. That way you can do something with it. So that brings me back to dreams and the ambition. Do you dream about finishing college and getting a job that takes you all over the world? Do you dream about owning your own business, building houses, staying right here in Cedar Rapids and learning new ideas that could change the world's destiny? Whatever your dream is, it is the dream that is the start of it. Once you know the it, then you got to focus. That's when you let ambition and hard work get you there. Use the lessons this crazy, dreadful, pandemic-filled year taught you, and let this be the gift that allows you to reach for and grab what it is you want most in life. If all of you realize your dreams, then this crazy, mixed-up world will be so much better. I see daily the division that tears at our country. And then I look at all of you in front of me, and it gives me great hope for the future. Congratulations, class of 2021. We are very proud of you. Good luck. I'd like to now reintroduce Superintendent Noreen Bush.
Well, welcome, Jayhawk class of 2021, the class of a lot of firsts. The first class in our school district to return to in-person graduation. The first graduating class to go through not only 1 year, but 2 years of pandemic-impacted learning. The first graduating class to have a derecho impact not only your personal lives, but also prevent you from stepping foot into your school for over a third of the year. Indeed, you have experienced a lot of firsts. The journey to this moment may have felt like an eternity at times, and perhaps a blink of an eye at others. Your stories are a lot of firsts, but remember, your stories also include a lot of Jayhawk resilience, grit, the blue fighting spirit. Oh yeah, I heard out there. At this time in our history, our community did experience a pandemic and a derecho, yet our community also experienced innovation, advocacy, tenacity, and resilience, and we heard that from your fellow classmates tonight. That is you, class of 2021. You have done things that no other class in CRCSD history has ever done. So now, more than ever, let's honor what you all have gained during the last 13 years of your school life. You have created a complete orchestra of learning, from impersonal traditional coursework to synchronous learning with teachers and classmates on the screen, to anywhere learning in your space at your own pace. This is the absolute crescendo in the concert of your schooling. You have tackled so much, especially in the last 16 months, and you have done it with grace and wisdom, and have fought your way to this moment. You are greatly admired by all of us here in the Cedar Rapids Community School District, you blue fighters. To the families, community members, and staff that have guided these young students along their academic journey, I hold deep respect for your mentorship, care, guidance that led these young men and women to this so very important moment in their lives. And graduates, as an alumnus of Jefferson High School, I share your enthusiasm. In fact, I truly believe that the Jayhawk fighting spirit is imprinted on our souls. Please know that we are cheering you on as you set yourself into the new adventures where you can begin to build your own unique history, where I am confident there will be many more firsts and new environments for you to apply that Jayhawk fighting spirit. So it's only fitting that we send you off thinking about those next steps in your future with the fighting spirit that connects all Jayhawks. That's right, Conductor Driscoll, you know what to do. Our fight song. Please stand, graduates. Please stand, arena. Please stand the stage. Oh, yeah. We raise our colors, blue and white. Sing it. Fight, Jayhawks, fight. Show the foe our strength and fight. Rah, rah, rah. Win, Jayhawks, win. We love to cheer you on your way. So thank you, everyone. Please know that our vision in Cedar Rapids is every learner future ready. This moment is about you being future ready. So everyone in the arena, we are going to cheer on this Jefferson High School graduating class with that very vision. When I say every learner, you all say future ready to the loudest volume we can get it. Are you ready? All right. Every learner. Congratulations, class of 21. You're awesome. We believe in you. Fight, Jayhawks, fight!
That's so hard to follow. Thank you, Ms. Bush. Board President Humbles, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, these members of the Jefferson High School class of 2021 have met the requirements set forth in district policy and state law. Therefore, we are at this time prepared to present to them their diplomas. Al-Mustafa Al-Abdul-Rasul. Kale Abrams. Arnold Agut. Maya Ahido Iritek. Emmanuel Alfani. Clementine Amani. Exose Amisi. Hunter Asby. Brooklyn Avis. Ian Bamsey. Allison Barnard. Elizabeth Barroso. Danson Batige. Kaylin Bache. Jeremy Bazan. Michelle Bender-Luis. Emma Berger. Jacob Baranek. Nicholas Bloom. Caleb Bloom. Nikasa Balumbu. Kiana Boots. Mackenzie Boots. Cruz Brannon. Rihanna Briney. Amber Brown. Clarissa Brownfield Casey. Preston Bruck. Pendesa Budaderi. Madison Bowman. Jackson Burgess. Haley Burrington. Kylie Burton. Justin Cano. Isabela Cervantes. Ryan Chamberlain. Riley Christensen. Callie Christofferson. Paige Klein. Aaliyah Collins. Lainey Comer. Sean Connor. Curtis Cousins. Quentin Crawford. Jacob Cross. Lindsay Davenport. Tyler Davis. Richard Deemy. Dylan DeFord. Way to go. Tahira Dembesti. Olivia Dietz Lenhart. Nadia Dixon. Ashlyn Dolan. Kyler Dugan. Noah Dukes. Malin Dunning. Tavius Dwyer. Kiva Edwards. Enoch Elias. Jaden Ellis. Samson Alofe. Briley Emerson. Patricia Favela. Peter Ferry. Byron Fisher. Jackson Fitzpatrick. Devontre Fleetwood. Daniel Fosdick. Damon Foster. Kaylee Foltz. Destiny Frank. Mizell Franklin. Legend Franks. Naomi Frazier. Jenna Freeberg. Emily Foltz. Sandrine Puraha. Jenna Gallagher. Nicholas Gardner. Tyrell Gaston. Logan Gatewood. Riley Gerhart. Jack Gowdy. Tucker Graber. Olivia Graveman. Ewan Greer. Kaylee Groman. Emmanuel Guerrero. Joshua Haddish. Dakota Hagan. Isaiah Hale. Tavius Hamlin. Chase Hammond. Jillian Hoskins. Justin Haviland. Ivory Hawley. Jawan Hayes. Chloe Hempel. Puraha Eri. Mason Heron. Isaac Hilius. Stone Hodges. Hannah Hager. LaJames Hopkins. Andrew Horning. Karen Horning. Cameron Howard. Allison Humphrey. Raekwon Hunter. Adna Islo. Samuel Yankee. Sarah Yankee. Shannon Jameson. Rose Jean. Zane Jellison. Christopher Johnson. Kate Jordan. Furaha Jumaine. Prosker Kapongo. Strider Koffold. Drew Kearns. Aiden Kelly. Gabriel Kelly. Christy Kelly. Cameron Kelly. Matthew Kirsten. Ella Kevitt. Olivia Kimbrough. Cadence Kincaid. Nicholas Kinch. Matthew Kitzmiller. Derek Klink. Dylan Klink. Caleb Knight. Madison Kolek. Kira Colstow. Blora Kantan. Ashley Kopel. Joseph Krivanik. Ornell Quihangana. Kyle Lake. Lucas Lamparek. Kyle Lassen. Taylor Lawrence. LaShonda Leach. Holland Lurch. Brooke Leuenhagen. Julia Lavelle. Elijah Lindgren. Williams Lopez. Brian Liu. April Lucas. Zachary Lumpa. Jaden Longvon. Kyler Malley. Claire Malone. Sienna Mans. Dylan Markham. Larissa Martinez Hipolito. Carter Mason. Timothy Matheny. Ryan May. Michaela Mays. Dylan McVeigh. Kiana Merwin. Sylvie Meyer. Lexi Michaelis. Give me 5, give me 5. Sophia Miller Campbell. Spencer Miner. Autumn Mitchell. Audie Mondelis. Anaya Moore. Ella Mormon. Alice Mukanoheri. Josie Mullet. Jack Mullinex. Emily Murray. Yushindi Muilade. Lane Myers. Journey Neighbors. You okay? Joel Nackhazel. Furaha Namwenda. Joseph Nassif. Rogelio Navarrete. Innocent Dushanbandi. Megan Nedelicki. Samantha New. Cameron Nazirka. Gabu Pamuru. And Michelle Gondap Bynum. Amanda Wynn. Jeanette Nibitonga. Boniface Niogusanga. Joshua Norton. Eris Sanzubandi. Devan Ntole. Noah Palmer. Aura Celeste Panduro Orellana. Susie Park. Elijah Parrott. Elizabeth Peeler. Nathan Pearson. Zoe Perry. Skylar Phelps. Bianca Phillips. Justin Phillips. Samantha Pierre. Peyton Pledge. Jimmy Ramirez. Allison Riley. Cody Robertson. Olivia Rogers. Alondra Rojas. Logan Rollison. Nicole Rose Solom. Yulissa Rubio. Eston Rude. Shandy Ruley. Jasmine Rush. Shinita Rush. Grace Rutherford. Zubeida Salehe. Alexander Skyone. May Schminke. Tyler Schmidt. Cal Schulte. Constance Scott. Alexandria Seagriff Klein. Mervyn Sedek. Alyssa Shanstrom. Daisha Ship. Sydney Siefkin. Carter Smith. Hannah Smith. Ida Songolo. Michaela Spear. Kira Stoffaker. Jackson Stone. Abigail Street Lamparic. Chantel Suldan. Tyler Somerville. Zachary Svoboda. Josiah Zabo. Zoe Siska. Eric Tippin. Jaden Tepen. Olivia Torres. Nicholas Tao. Carly Trewick. Gabrielle Truesdell. Katrina Truitt. Karen Tuhal. Dante Tusing. Alicia Ulrich. Sierra Vega. Madison Vial. Benjamin Virag. Levi Visick. Grace Vita. Nicole Von Leenen. Aaliyah Walker.
What?
Naya Walter. Eliana Ward. Anna Warkle. Joel Watts. Jackson Weber. Colby Weber. Avery Westbrook. James West. Paige Weibke. Breen Wilcoxon. Renee Wilhelm. Capria Williams. Aaron Wilson. Ella Winans. Kaylin Wise. Kiana Withers. Teddy Wolotel. Kayla Wright. Catherine Yukanovich. Dustin Yautzi. Shamiramana Zawadi. Liram Zanelli.
Live and Local is proudly sponsored by Community First Credit Union and Waln Collision Center in Fairfax.